Joining me tonight, Marialana Kinter. She is Democratic candidate for Florida 7. Marialana, thank you for being with me.
Thank you for having me tonight. I'm very excited to be here.
I'm going to give you about 2 minutes to talk about your campaign, let people know who you are, what your campaign's doing, and after that, we're going to jump into why you're doing the campaign. So, go ahead.
Thank you. I'm Marialana Kinter. I am a former mechanic, a former nuclear reactor supervisor, Navy veteran, and the only working class candidate, only working class Democrat challenging Cory Mills in Florida's 7th District. I am proudly grassroots funded with an average donation of $21. We've raised over $500,000 that way from over 24,000 individual contributions. We got on the ballot via petitioning, meaning people powered, not paying the fine, because people are sick of these DC establishment candidates who come in and make a quick buck off of our working families. It's time for universal health care. It's time for universal child care, investing in public education, in a Congress that does not follow lobbyists, but follows the actual voters. And together we're going to get money out of politics. We're going to Congress for the working class.
So you said about your campaign, you mentioned Cory Mills. I just saw news yesterday that his opponents, well, not his opponents, who is it? I just had it. Rep. Luna and Haridopolos endorsed his opponent. So does that change your strategy at all going into the general?
It does not, no. Right now, I am with an enemy like Cory Mills. You don't have to do much else. Right now, I've been working with Republicans. I've been working with Democrats. I've been working with independents, because something I say often is that this isn't about making the district blue. It's about improving the lives of Floridians who live here and making the district better together. And whether it's Cory Mills or whether it's another opponent, if they take big corporate money and they take establishment money, then it doesn't matter, because they aren't working for us at the end of the day. So no matter who it is, if it's just another poster child, the strategy remains the same.
So you mentioned you were at an event today meeting voters. What has been your strategy to cross the aisle and talk to Republican voters, or finding those NPAs? I know we're past the deadline now, but did you have an effort to get NPAs to register as Dems for the primaries?
The strategy has been to push policy, to focus on the policy that's affecting people, policy that's going to return money to individuals, to working families, that's going to improve our school system, our trade jobs, the economy out here in Seminole and Volusia County. And it hasn't been targeted towards one party, because everybody is feeling the same thing. And something I talk about often is homeowners insurance, and how when houses flood, it's not checking your voter registration first. And I found that to be a successful strategy, because it turns out if you just focus on the community that lives here, the community will respond regardless of party. The things we were talking about are not partisan. And we had Republicans, we had independents who switched over and did register as Democrats, because they felt as though I was the only candidate who's talking about healthcare, public education, Social Security, flooding, trade jobs. And that will remain the strategy, because there's nothing else more important than improving the lives of Floridians.
So I'm trying to get a sense of what those conversations were like with voters like that. Like, how do you approach them? Because we're in such a toxic political environment, right? So how do you approach that conversation with someone that immediately, let's say, is immediately Democrat, don't want to talk?
Yes. I say, you want money out of politics? Are you happy with the way things are? And usually resounding no, whether regardless of party. Nope, not happy with the way things are. Yes, I want money out of politics. Well, I'm the candidate who's fighting to get money out of politics in both parties. And they'll say, I'm still worried about being with a Democrat, supporting a Democrat. And I'm like, well, I am not the establishment pick. And it turns out when you call out the money and you chase down both parties and you call out the corruption that also exists within the Democratic Party, and I'll keep it real with them. I tell them, I'm not going to hold another party high to a standard higher than my own. We need to make the Democratic Party what it should be, what it talks about. We need to actually walk the walk. And that usually gets people more warmed up. And then right after that, what's the biggest issue for you? And they tell me about it. And oftentimes it's the cost of living. It's healthcare. It's the things that we've talked about. And that gives you the perfect segue into actually proposing policy. And oftentimes, including today where I was at a bipartisan forum, Republicans came up to me after, I'm a Republican, but you're the only candidate who talked about solutions and policy. And like I've never voted blue in my entire life, but I think I am going to this November because we need someone who can fix stuff, not just anyone can identify or problems, right? Like your weird neighbor down the street can identify problems. We're electing people to improve it and it actually still fix the problems.
Okay. So your campaign, you're a veteran. You were in the Navy. What made you, well, first of all, you grew up in Florida, right?
No, I grew up, I was born in Bozeman, Montana, North Carolina,
Bozeman,
Cleveland,
okay.
Ohio. We moved around a lot and then settled in North
Military, huh?
Carolina. Nope, not military. We just had a very
Wow.
tumultuous childhood.
Yeah. Well, so, well, that gives me a segue. Did the tumultuous childhood, did that come into play with your decision for the military?
Yes.
And I asked that
absolutely.
because it came into play for me.
It did. It 100% did. I did well in school. I did well in science courses. I knew I wanted to go into engineering and science. And also I knew I wanted to give back to my country as well. Having grown up, we spent time in the foster care system. We relied on free school lunches, on Medicaid, on programs that exist for social infrastructure. And so I knew I wanted to give back because those resources were there for me and the government was there for me when we needed it. And then I was terrified of taking out student loans. I was terrified, even with good grades, even with scholarships. I had a harsh reality that at any point things could change. I could get hit by a car, someone could get sick, and I could need to take out student loans. And I wasn't willing to, having grown up in a very, very low money situation, to say the least. I wasn't willing to. I'm a very frugal person. There was no way I was going to be decades in debt trying to reach an education. And the military offered me a path forward with nuclear power. That was exactly what I needed in my life.
So did you look at any of the other services when you joined? You joined at 18?
I joined at 17.
17, okay. So you did, what do they call it? Well, man, that was forever ago now. 18 years ago when I went, but the 17-year-olds would come do basic and then go back for their senior year. Is that what you did?
I graduated young. I graduated young. I don't want to say I didn't skip a grade, but I graduated at 17. I was 16 partway through my senior year. 10 days after I graduated high school, I was in boot camp. But yeah, I graduated very young.
Did they make you wait till you're 18 to graduate boot camp, or did the birthday already happen at that point?
Nope, I turned 18 most of the way through my A school, or like the first part of my technical school. It's now a thing I've heard. Don't quote me on it, but I've heard now you have to be 18 to graduate boot camp, but I was not.
Wow, I've never heard of that. So it was a tumultuous childhood, grew up in not the best environment. What was your first, well, let's say what was job training, what was boot camp like for you, going from where you were to that type of environment?
I have always been a very hard worker, a workhorse. It's my favorite quality about myself, and worked in high school, worked a lot in high school, worked 2 jobs, upward of 40 hours a week, my junior and senior year. So going into boot camp, it was definitely a culture shock. I remember waking up one morning in P days, for anyone who watches this that's familiar with that, waking up in P days under this red light and thinking, God, I could have gone to college, huh? And that was the biggest shock moment. But besides that, it was very much the same as having started working at 14 and being like, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to do this for stability. I'm going to do this for an income source. I'm going to do this to make sure my future is set. And I just tried not to, on times that were hard, on times that were stressful, I tried not to dwell on it and remember why I was doing it. But that was the biggest culture shock in boot camp, of just waking up one day and being like, could have been in college right now.
Yeah, I can't say my experience was the same. I was smart, but I wasn't common sense smart. So everything that you talked about, the college after, I didn't even consider it. Like, I found out really about the GI Bill after I joined. That's how much I really didn't care. So yeah, I wish I had done it that way, because I had the scores, everything to do a job that I could actually carry over. And what I chose combat engineer.
I almost went after the Marine Corps because my sister had enlisted in the Marine Corps, but then they were like, you do qualify for the nuclear program, which is what I had gone to the recruiters for, so I jumped on that.
Yeah, smart decision. I'm sure the post-military skills are a little bit more useful.
I ended up getting DOGE'd from my employment opportunity after the military, so maybe not.
Really?
Yes.
That's
that
interesting.
is actually what prompted me.
It's horrible, but you're actually the third person that I have talked to that has mentioned Doge and a firing that has kind of got them involved in this. You said your sister joined the Marines. How many other, was your only sibling, or do you have any other siblings?
I am one of 4, and
Me too.
my brother, we were born in pairs, right? So my oldest 2 sisters are close in age, and me and my brother are close in age, family tradition. My sister joined the Marine Corps, my other sister's an artist, and then me and my brother joined the Navy together because we were in the same grade.
The artist, that's a interesting spin on the other 3.
She's technically a creative director. I just sum it up as artist, but she's made all of my website, everything. She's a professional web designer.
Oh, that's an artist. I mean, I went to graphic design school. I worked with web designers. Yeah, 8 years in the Navy.
Yes.
So was that 8 years planned, or was it one term, get out and use the GI Bill, or I'm going to do another
I was
one?
medically retired after an injury on board the USS Nimitz. And then I went to shore command because the out to sea schedule didn't fit in me getting medical treatment. And so just healed everything, went back to shore command. And then it turns out my shoulder and hip joints were very messed up. I got shoulder joint reconstructive surgery in there, and then was medically retired.
Bittersweet.
Yeah, fantastic. I met my husband. I met my friends who are my family. And I really liked my time in the military. As you make the best friends of your life. And then obviously the job sucks, the work sucks, and the schedule is demanding, but you wouldn't have it any other way, right?
Yeah. Was the medical retirement being forced out like that? Was that rough? Like, was that part of your, was it around the time you planned to get out? Because I know you said you were going to go to college. Like, that was the plan to begin with.
I planned on getting out after that contract.
Okay. Wow. So you went into college after the military.
I'm currently
Where'd you go to school?
I'm a full.
But you're still in school.
Student. Yes. I only got out in December of 2024 is when I was medically retired. I started working at a research job through this program that only hired veterans, and it places you in a research lab near you. And then the DOGE cuts happened, and as a veteran, as STEM, and as a woman, all 3 of those are DEI. And so the federal funding to this program was cut. No fault to the program. It was a fantastic job, fantastic leaders, but a huge portion of the federal funding was cut. And so they had to let a bunch of veterans go. And that's what pushed me into running. But I only got out in December of 2024.
See, I told you in the beginning, trying to change it up and not actually do research. I don't know. I think maybe it'll work better. It's going to be more natural. We'll see. So you're a full-time student running your campaign. How did the Navy prepare you for how busy you are right now? Because I can't even imagine.
Let me
nonstop.
tell you.
Like right now, you're sitting in a car after doing an event to do another event, basically.
Finals week, while approaching the primary election, within weeks of the primary election, I feel like I'm on deployment again. It's just go, go,
I couldn't
go.
imagine.
But I got to say, luckily, I have a very good support group. I have a fantastic group of volunteers, campaign manager that is just amazing, family, husband that is very, very supportive, handles dinner every night. And so that definitely helps. You didn't have that on deployment. So way better.
So walk me through the Doge story, like the emotional aspect of it, what you witnessed, how it affected the people you worked with, and what made you, after that point, be like, yeah, fuck this, I'm going.
So with the job that I had in the military, with the security clearance, and then being in a public role, because while I was a nuclear supervisor on the ship, I then went to recruiting command where I was a nuclear field liaison. And so with the public aspect of that and the nuclear aspect, I couldn't really have a role in politics or a voice in politics while I was in. So when I got out, I was very excited to finally be able to speak up in my adult life and be part of the change that I wanted to see nationwide. So I was getting involved in local politics already. And I was going to work, I was going to school, and just dabbling in politics, local politics on the side. And one day I was going into work and I got a call from my boss and he said, "How are you doing?" And I said, "I'm doing well." He said, "Not anymore, you're not. We got DOGE'd."
Oof.
And I said, "What?" He said, "Oh, we got DOGE'd." And keep in mind, this is a job of all veterans. So we talk to each other very normally, very casually. He's like, "Yeah, we got DOGE'd. We have enough funding to pay you till the end of the semester, but then we don't have the funding anymore." And so I went into the lab supervisor, to the person whose lab that I was working in, that I was placed in, and I told him I got DOGE'd. And at first he thought I was joking, and so did my lab mates, right, the other research assistants. They thought I was joking, and I was like, "No, you're going to get a call from my boss." out in California who's going to tell you. And then he called him and told him, and people just didn't realize that it was really happening to normal everyday people. We all heard of these stories because this was May of 2025. We all heard of the stories of people getting doged, but they didn't know it was really affecting people within our own community. And I have to say, I'm in a lucky position where the loss of that income didn't break the bank. I live in a community-filled house. I live with my siblings, their children, my husband, and so we have the resources to where a loss of one income wasn't going to break the bank, but there are thousands of families where it did break the bank. And so I feel fortunate. I feel lucky. I got a warning. Other people didn't. They showed up to work one day and got sent home the same day without being able to get their stuff. And so even though that did happen to me, I know that I'm fortunate in how it happened to me.
Just the emotional roller coaster that a lot of people had to go through too, because some of these people through that whole period were hired back within a month or two. It's just another example. There was an article I saw last night, something that the administration is doing. I don't remember it off the top of my head. But there was a period I just got tired of the constant attacks, because that's what they are. They're going after the people.
They also, sorry.
No, go ahead.
In their interview with these Doge employees on why they cut funding, they didn't have very good answers at all.
They weren't prepared. Is that what you're saying? They weren't prepared?
No, the people who were making the cuts and the people who were making the calls to fire people and lay people off and remove them from their jobs, it was almost solely based on their opinion. And there's a documentary and an interview that's released on why is this DEI, and they don't have true answers on it. It was just anything that doesn't include me is DEI at this point.
Didn't they just use AI, actually? Didn't they use
might have missed that
ChatGPT or
part.
something to do it?
I would not be shocked based on their explanations or lack thereof.
Hopefully midterms get here and some normalcy will appear, because I'm usually a very resilient person, but over the last couple of weeks, just the constant strain of all the headlines has just been, it's to the point where you just feel like you're on Groundhog Day. I don't know if you ever saw that old Bill Murray movie.
Yes.
Groundhog Day, that's what it feels like.
Every day it feels like we get such catastrophic news that another person's murdered in the streets, that another school is bombed overseas at our cost, that the president tweeted out another war plan, just these absurd news titles every single day, that the American citizen is getting desensitized to these things. We're seeing this onslaught of murder, this onslaught of violence in our own streets. And I agree with you. It's ridiculous and it's absurd, and we need midterms now. We need them now for change.
Now, your platform is more progressive than, well, I would say it is progressive, honestly, compared to most Democrats, especially establishment Democrats. Have you been watching the progressive wave that's been going on across the country?
I have. I absolutely have. And I have to say, it's because they're putting in hard work. We've seen for decades establishment people just roll in and win the election from just mass amounts of mailers and mass amounts of TV ads. But the progressives are getting out there. They're knocking on doors. They're making a movement. They're creating excitement. And that's what's creating this huge wave that we're seeing. And it's because they're working hard.
It goes back to what you said in the very beginning. It's not about parties. It's about community. It's about people.
Yeah,
And the more people that see that, the better off we'll be. You got into the campaign after getting doged. I've never used it in that. I've never heard it framed that way before. Since you started your campaign, gotten involved to a deeper level, what has been the biggest surprise, shock to you about the political world that nobody else might realize?
The play-to-pay system, it's a pay-to-play system. The political realm, the political world, it's completely a pay-to-play system, from media outlets to news outlets. And if you are willing to buy into the pay-to-play system, if you are willing to hire the right consultants that's hired by every other politician, so you get those endorsements, if you don't have mass amounts of money, you aren't self-funded, you don't personally know more millionaires, then good luck. You have to work twice as hard. You have to work circles around them to get half as far. And that's the most shocking. That's the most jarring, because the average voter doesn't know that. I didn't know that. One of the first conversations I had was, you need to drop out until you personally know more millionaires. And that's astounding. That's disgusting that a working class person can't run for office because they want to see change, because the system isn't working for us.
Because you wouldn't bring in enough money for the party is what was basically said to you, right?
Yes, because I'm not taking that corporate money, so there's no profitability off of my campaign for them.
Can I ask who told you that?
It was I honestly forget their name at this point because I never called them back, but it was one of the
Oh, okay.
DC consultants.
Like Washington, D.C.?
Yeah.
Wow. So the Democratic Party, like establishment headquarter type thing.
Yes. I also don't want to create
You're
more infighting, but yes, exactly.
honestly, I am all for the infighting. We just saw in Michigan, Abdul Saeed, like who was it? The billionaire donor. What's his name? Can you help me on this?
The
The
billionaire.
guy that said he would leave the party if Al Saeed won.
Yeah, what is his name? Well, let's see if he leaves.
Exactly. Well, that's what I was going with. When he said that, everybody's responses, at least that I've seen, has been, okay, fine. And I think that needs to be more of the attitude like, yes, go. We don't want you representing this party. Like,
I've been asked a lot in the news what my opinion on the DSA is and what my opinion on centrists saying the DSA needs to start their own party. And that's more of what I was alluding to because I don't think the DSA needs to start their own party. If you're running and
no, I don't
winning
either.
as a Democrat, you have a place in the Democratic Party because you're running and winning.
That's what we have caucuses for anyway.
Yes.
This form of DSA. I'm actually, isn't there a DSA caucus? Maybe I'm wrong.
I don't believe there's a DSA caucus. But again, if
Actually,
they're
no, I
running
wanna
and
look it
winning
up.
as Democrats, we need to welcome them in and work together.
That was your answer about the pay to play. That was pretty much identical to what everybody else has said, the pay to play. Because I've only talked to grassroots candidates. I haven't talked to any, well, that I knew of. I talked to one apparently at Leadership Blue, but I was informed about after. But yeah, I try to avoid that because I'm not here to do the you take money, all that stuff. I want to get to know someone who I actually think their campaign is worth taking a second look at. Okay, so we do not have a DSA caucus. Informal. There is informal DSA caucuses. Back on track. I just asked about the most surprising thing. What has been the most rewarding thing about the campaign?
Getting to make a difference in real people's lives and getting to honor the promises and see them come to fruition. I launched my campaign with a food drive, and mutual aid has been the cornerstone of my campaign. I've been the longest standing candidate, and we've spent the past over a year doing food drives, clothing drives. We did free dinner for furloughed federal employees during that government shutdown. We've done clothing drives for homeless veterans and single moms, feminine hygiene product drives, just everything we can to try to uplift the people who are living in the community. And because that hasn't been bipartisan, if someone's hungry and we have food, we give it to them. And getting to see that immediate impact in their lives where they didn't know if they'd have food for their kids has been the most rewarding thing. Because I remember when I was a kid, my mom would come home with food that was given to her and it would be our meal for the day. And getting to know that I'm providing for somebody what somebody else provided for me 20 years ago, it makes every hard bit worth it. It makes every hard bit completely worth it. Refills my cup. And I actually have not gotten asked this, so thank you, because it genuinely is very good to reflect on.
No, I mean, I saw there was an instant attitude change as soon as you heard it. So it was a genuine reaction, and I appreciate that. I only had one more question, so we're going to wrap up pretty quick. And then we're going to let you talk about, first of all, I have a lot of followers outside the state. So I want to give you a chance to let people know who might be watching who want to support progressive candidates in other states, how they can help you. The question before that, though, if there was going to be a movie made on your campaign, who would play you and why?
Oh my gosh. Who's that lady who plays the youngest Stark sister? Arya Stark?
Yeah.
That's who I'm told I look like because we both have round faces. And I think she's a good actress. If not her, Benedict Cumberbatch.
Benedict Cumberbatch.
Because he's a fantastic actor. Or
He is a very good actor.
Actress who plays Arya Stark.
I'm trying to find her name right now. I typed in Arya Stark and it's just showing me pictures of Arya Stark, but it's not telling me who plays her. Maisie Williams. There it is.
Maisie Williams or Benedict Cumberbatch. Either of them, I'm fine.
So pure reasoning as to that just one of them's a good actor and the other one people tell you look like her and you like her acting as well.
I think she's a phenomenal actress. I am told we look alike. And then I just think everything I watch, and it could be that I just watched Doctor Strange. So I don't watch a bunch of movies. I don't watch a lot of movies or TV shows.
Mhm.
And so it was one of the first actors that came to my mind. And I was like, I like watching, I've never watched a bad Benedict Cumberbatch movie.
Nope, I haven't either, actually. There's a lot of older ones too, like in the 90s that are so obscure. You watch them and they're good.
I think he'd look great in a blondish wig.
A blondish wig. Now I'm gonna have to like Photoshop that and put it over this segment.
Perfect. The thumbnail.
Okay, we're gonna wrap this up. I have a lot of followers outside the state. I've already told you that. I want you to let people know, let my followers know, because I'm going to put up little clips, like 30 seconds, other than the full episode. The full episode is really just to get the clips, honestly, because that's where all the followers are, all on Instagram. Let them know, let my followers know how they can support you if they're outside the state, or how they could support you if they live in your district, live in the state.
If you live in the state, we are constantly doing canvases 6 times a week. We're getting very close to the election, 13 days away from the primary. So we're doing canvassing, door knock, lit drops, where you just drop off the literature at somebody's house and walk away. If you're not in the state, phone banks. And if you're in the state but you have mobility issues, we're constantly doing phone banks, calling people. Do you know there's an election coming up? Do you want money out of politics? Do you want universal health care? Do you want universal child care? Following online, completely free. And as you know, it really helps boost the reach. The reason we're seeing progressive candidates being successful is because there's an infrastructure online of people boosting and supporting and sharing the message so that it reaches the people that it needs to reach. And there are countless ways to get involved. Kinterforcongress.com. Sign up to volunteer. We will find a place for you on our team, I promise. Even if you think you have no political skill set, we will find what you like to do and incorporate it into the campaign. This needs to be about volunteering with purpose and enjoyment. We don't want to burn anybody out. And that's how you create a movement. And so please get involved, follow along online, volunteer, comment, share, whatever you can.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate you coming on, talking to me, going a little bit differently than we probably have with other podcasts, but I'm figuring out what this show's going to be. So I appreciate you for working with me on it and coming on and talking to me.
Absolutely. Thank you again for allowing me to, and thank you for inviting me and for hosting other candidates, because this is not just about my race, it's about a national movement. So thank you.
Awesome. Of course. Anything else I can do to help, just let me know.